Well, hello again, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Tondro. It's another sleepless night, and, well, I was reflecting on something that happened to me once upon a time. Many months ago, I'd actually say maybe it was about this time last year, someone once asked me what would I do if I was leader of Russia, or something to that effect. And this is someone I was talking to who is at the very least somewhat empathetic to the Russian worldview of NATO expansion is bad, which it is. But this person was also convinced of the Euromaidan being a CIA coup or fucking whatever. Let's say for the sake of argument that it was, well, it wouldn't have happened if Russia didn't have controlled opposition within the Ukrainian, within several Ukrainian political parties, including the Communist Party as well. If it wasn't for them colluding with and basically being controlled by a foreign agency, they would never have banned it in the first place. But that's ancient history now. Genuinely, I know it was the Euromaidan was in 2014 or thereabouts, but it feels like it was in fucking 1994 almost. Anyway, how would I broker peace between Ukraine and Russia? Well, in this scenario, let's say I am sitting at a table with Zelensky and Putin, and we are on neutral territory somewhere. We're somewhere in Thailand. We're just three white guys hiding somewhere in Thailand, waiting for the world to calm down just a little bit. Boy, isn't that a fucking mood. I would say, Zelensky, Putin, it is time for us to chill the fuck out. It is time for us to end this conflict. And I say conflict because I don't want to say special military operation, but I don't want to say war either. I don't want to offend either of these men. I don't like offending people. I don't think offending people gets us anywhere. I would start with this. Putin, the ball is in your court because you have the nuclear weapons, you have the bigger military, you have more people, you have a bigger population. The ball is in your court. So I'm going to start the negotiation with you. You claim that this special military operation is about denazification. It's probably about other things. I'm not the smartest man in the world, but even I know that I'll put it to you this way. It's a strange coincidence that Eastern Ukraine is not just where all the Russians who are being genocided by Nazis are, but also it is where there's a lot of oil and a lot of natural gas and a lot of wheat and other resources in infrastructure, all of which would be strategic to Russian Federation. Now, maybe I am wrong. Maybe I am wrong in my opinion that you are just George Bush looking for oil. Let's say I humor him and pretend to believe that it is about Nazis and denazification. Okay, Mr. Zelensky, you are a Jew. You probably don't like Nazis either. So let's come together and make sure that both parties can walk away from this negotiation happy. Zelensky, you want your land back. Vladimir Putin, you want to get rid of Nazis. So I have a proposition. The Russians will end the military operation at some point in the near future. Let's say in the next 6 months. During these 6 months, they aren't to advance any further than they already are. They are to dig in and hold off the enemy from advancing. Zelensky, during these 6 months, I want you to round up all of the Nazis in your country. They don't necessarily even have to be on the far right. They could be random members of Azov. They could be random military commanders you don't like. It could be random people and civilians you don't like. You can do it via a lottery system. I don't care how you do it. Just get us 500,000 prisoners. 500,000 people you don't need. Preferably if they are actually on the political right and are political extremists. Preferably actual neo-Nazis and football hooligans and so on. People who are probably already serving life sentences in your prisons anyway. And during these 6 months, Mr. Putin, I want you to go all throughout Russia, and I want you to arrest all of the Nazis in your nation. We're going to arrest everyone associated with the Orthodox banner and the Russian imperial movement, and we're going to arrest, I personally have given, I personally have on my person, in my back pocket, information leading to the addresses of several American neo-Nazis that we all know, and by we I mean American intelligence, Russian intelligence, and United Kingdom intelligence. We know full well that there are British citizens and American citizens hiding in Russia who have ties to neo-Nazi terror organizations in Russia and in the US and in the UK. Namely, the leader of the base. He is currently hiding in Leningrad. Leningrad, St. Petersburg. I call it Leningrad. I don't care. I'm a communist. Now, here's the thing. Mr. Putin, when you are done arresting your 500,000 and Zelensky is done arresting their 500,000, you are to announce on Russian state TV that the military successfully destroyed and captured Avdiivka, and it was really a place where there was a bunch of intelligence being held, and in this place, we found files that said that this specific American Nazi was behind all of it, and he was going to coup the Ukrainian government and start a new Third Reich with America and let's say, I don't know, Germany again and whatever, and maybe Poland and whatnot. Make a Third Reich even, just right on Russia's doorstep in some kind of attempt to overthrow Russia. And then when you make that announcement, you say, okay, we have won. And here's where the exchanges will happen. The Ukrainians you have already captured that are held by Russian forces, I would say give about half of your POWs back to Ukraine. Ukraine will give half back, and the ones that don't come back, we will just have executed. But for those 500,000 Nazis from the Ukrainian side, they're to come over to Russia via a boat. And then once they arrive in Russia, they are going to be put in the same prisons as the other 500,000. So now you have the ability to announce on Russian television, we have 1 million Nazis in our prisons. We now have the, we now have, and they don't necessarily have to be Nazis. They can be the mentally ill. They can be members of Pussy Riot. It doesn't matter. And then we have these 1 million Nazis, and then we say, okay, we have won the war, we have 1 million Nazis in our prisons, we're going to start executing all of them publicly, and then you declare a Novorossiya Day, and you declare a new national holiday, and with no more Russians in Ukraine, Ukraine can be happy. No more Nazis anywhere left in the world because you just fucking killed 1 million of them. You can now basically immortalize yourself as a almost George Washington or Alexander the Great kind of figure, and so long as Russian is a language, the name Vladimir Putin will inspire, generation after generation of like-minded anti-fascist heroes, and so on and so on. And I don't, personally, in reality, I don't think such a plan would work. I don't think that Putin wants to immortalize himself as a hero. I think he's already done that, at least in his own mind. I think genuinely all of this is about resources. I think if he wants to plunder the world for resources, he should just stick to the Middle East and ISIS and focus on the situation in Syria. And the thing is, too, is, you know, someone who once made propaganda for the far right, I'm going to be honest, Putin has failed horribly in his propaganda. He has failed horribly. He might have been able to convince himself and his people, but he failed to convince the world, and that's why he is going to lose this special military operation at the end of it. In the end, he will lose. The Russian Federation will lose because he did everything in his power to scare the West into submission, and what happened? Everything that he did to break Ukraine just galvanized Ukraine and the West even more and made them stronger. Now we have NATO. NATO has recently assimilated. Sweden has joined NATO. Finland has joined NATO. Two countries that were extremely neutral and extremely afraid of the Russian Federation since well into the Cold War era. Now they are no longer afraid of the USSR. Now they are no longer afraid of Russia. Now they are part of NATO. That is almost inconceivable, 20 years ago. In my opinion, I think, maybe fucking a non-European country will join NATO next, I think. In my opinion. What will happen next, I don't know. Maybe Mexico will join NATO. Or Japan or some bullshit. And in the end of it, that's what I think it's going to be. But I would love to just, have that opportunity just to say to at least, not even just Putin, just someone within the Kremlin and someone from Kyiv to sit down with me and say, yeah, this is my plan for reconciliation. What do you guys think? And we can change a few things. We can say, okay, Avdiivka and Donetsk and Luhansk, they can all be Russian territories, but we give back Crimea, or maybe we keep all that we've lost in the war and we just redraw the borders. But from there, Russia has to pay a bunch of money for the rights to the land, whatever. Or maybe I'm wrong and this war will continue. This special military operation will continue until Putin has died of old age and Shoigu takes power in a military coup. I hate to say that, but in all honesty, I think that's what I think genuinely in all reality, I think that's what's going to happen. I think in the next less than 10 years, I would say 5 years, 7 at most, Putin will die of old age. He will probably get cancer or COVID, or he'll just, fall out of a fucking window, just magically die. And from there, his prime minister, whose name I can't remember, will take over. His prime minister, whoever takes control after he does, won't last long. And if the war is still continuing, it will just break Russia even more. And the problem with that is, if someone like the current prime minister takes power, he will be seen as a weakling. He won't be seen as strong, and they need a strong man with a personality, with an almost cult of personality behind him. And unfortunately, the only person I can think of off the top of my head who matches that kind of description in power would unfortunately be Shoigu. And typically, giant military operations, and when a general takes control of when a general takes control of a military, it's one thing. When a general takes control of a country, it usually does not end well. Look at Myanmar. Usually that's the first thing that happens before a civil war. It's always the general takes control and there's no more president, and it's a military junta. But hey, man, God bless Russia. They're gonna need God by the end of this shit. Anyway, I hope we see peace at some point. I hope we see a day where we aren't murdering each other, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think there's always going to be war, but I hope one day we will have war against bad ideas and not necessarily bad people or entire races and nations and whatnot. Hopefully we'll have a war against fucking climate change, because that's gonna fucking kill all of us if we don't. Anyway, that's about all I gotta say. Peace out.